How's it going, Matt?
Well, the same as when we talked maybe 2 minutes ago.
Shh.
Good. I'm doing good. I'm doing great.
This is a secret.
Is it? Okay. The same as last week when we chatted.
Yeah, last week.
Yeah, that conversation is very vivid in my mind.
Very vivid.
Yeah.
Anything new since last week?
I didn't fix the smoke detector yet. Since last week. Not particularly, no. How about you?
So today is actually Easter.
Yes, it is.
Well, I don't know when other people celebrate Easter. It's Sunday, so we're celebrating it, and we're not religious, so we're not like doing any sort of religious worship related to Easter. But we did introduce our 2-year-old to the idea of an egg hunt.
Okay. Yeah, I never understood Easter. I don't even know what you're supposed to do, and I myself am totally not religious at all, zip zero. So Easter for me is nothing. It's not even a day off. So
no,
they had a public egg hunt last weekend, so we went to that, and this weekend I kind of totally forgot it was Easter. Do you guys is it a day off in Canada? I don't remember.
It depends on the province.
Really?
I know that in Alberta you get both days.
The Friday and the Monday?
Yeah. Good Friday and Easter Monday. However, in Quebec, it's like a weird holiday in that one of the 2 days is a holiday, and it's completely up to your employer which of those 2 days they're going to give you.
Really?
So some companies will give you both, but womp womp, not all of them.
Are you at work tomorrow?
I'm going to work tomorrow, yeah.
Did you get Friday?
I did get Friday, yeah.
Nice. Interestingly, I mean, America in almost all cases is the more religious and conservative country than Canada, but Easter is not a day off, at least not in Washington State.
I think Canada's kind of dumpy for the number of holidays they get. And it totally depends province to province too. So I don't know. I think Quebec gets like the least amount of holidays.
Did you say it's gumpy?
Dumpy with a D.
Dumpy. Implying what? Stingy?
Yeah. Compared to other countries.
Perhaps. Well, you've been to Australia and Europe, which I think both are quite liberal with their holidays. In the States, I think last year we had 8 federal holidays. I believe Canada gets 10. So, but then they added 2 at my previous company, so there was 10. And then I don't even know now how it works, but I think it's pretty standard to maybe get about 10. But I think you're federally required to provide for just those 8, if I remember correctly. And a lot of companies have like floating holidays and stuff, so I'm not really complaining, but
yeah. Well, I don't know. Every country's different. Like I know in Australia it was mandatory 4 weeks of holiday for every employee.
But that's vacation time, right? That's not like...
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. I'm confused just because in other countries they call vacation holiday as well.
No, okay.
But yeah, so it's 4 weeks vacation a year in Australia, and then it was like a mandatory 2 weeks. So like you were only allowed to bank 2 of those weeks to get money. Like you had to absolutely take 2 weeks off.
Interesting.
Whereas in Canada, it's 2 weeks, and I think most people end up just banking it all, except for when their business like forces them to leave at Christmas time or something.
Yeah. Which I've experienced. Oh, I'm fighting a sneeze. The holiday system in Japan is interesting. Well, it's not interesting. It's just interesting how it ends up playing out. And it's kind of famous, but no one takes holidays, right? It's kind of a social faux pas. So like. People will take like a week, but they actually get a lot of government, what's the word? I guess federal holidays, whatever they call them, specifically statutory holidays. So they have like, I don't want to throw a number out there, maybe 15-ish. Like they get a lot, but then no one really takes their own private vacation time so much. So I don't know, mixed bag, I guess.
One of my coworkers from France, I should look up the name of this before spouting off about it, but I'm not going to do that because I live in North America, damn it.
America.
Anyway, in France, apparently they have some holiday, quote unquote, that it's considered a holiday. However, everyone still has to work. And then all of the money that is paid that day actually goes towards people's retirements or something.
I see.
So it's like
it doesn't show up on your paycheck, but congrats, you'll get a pension.
Yeah, it's like everyone worked the day. I don't know. It seems like an interesting approach.
That's interesting. Yeah, I know. So I know people from France, and they get like, you know, the typical like whatever it is, 4 weeks, 5 week vacations, and it's like they're frustrated with North America because you get so little or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess wherever you grow up, that's what you're used to. So,
speaking of having so much and then having so little, do you remember when video games used to have instruction manuals?
I do. It was a wondrous period. Wondrous.
Did you like that segue?
That was good. That was good. Classy. I was going to bite my tongue and congratulate you afterwards, but we can have the conversation on the podcast too. That's good. You know, not even just instruction manuals, but general print. I mean, we already had an episode about magazines, but like, do you remember like the Super Nintendo Player's Guide? Like Nintendo would just release these guides every now and then out of nowhere, and it's like this big fat book full of art, full of like all kinds of stuff. I mean, that whole thing is just gone now. It's so upsetting.
Well, so that's true and it's not true. What's I don't know if it's just my perception has widened as I'm an adult, but I used to be less cynical about guides, I guess, as a kid.
Okay. Less cynical?
I don't even have a train of thought on this, so it's I feel like when a guide came out, like I bought like the Final Fantasy VII guide or the Final Fantasy 8. I don't even want to talk about that game.
I did have the 7 guide. I didn't get tricked into the 8 guide.
But it's like I totally bought that guide, and I loved all the artwork and everything in it. And I guess now that I'm an adult and I realize that it's like the game companies themselves that are like providing a lot of this content to the guide makers, it seems very weird to me.
Okay. In what sense?
Like all the artwork and everything that's in those manuals is coming from the company that's making the game. And it's like,
not always, but in the better quality things.
Yeah.
Not the third party rip-off guides and stuff.
I don't know. It seems disingenuous. I don't know what I'm trying to think on this subject.
Are you kind of differentiating from, like, say, a manual that the game company is producing directly and shipping to you directly in the same package?
Yeah, I feel like it's disappointing that these manuals just don't exist anymore, and then the companies are through a third party selling you a manual.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I don't even. I mean, do they still make guidebooks? Probably.
Yeah. So you can totally go into Best Buy and find like collector's guides, and it's like full of artwork and stuff, and tells you how to do a thing. Like I know that those were released for like Breath of the Wild and stuff. So you can buy these guides on day one, which I also find that concept confusing.
Like that's how someone wants to play the game, is just through the guide. I guess I mostly agree with you. I mean, to each their own, right? Like some people just want that. I don't know. Yeah. That's the approach some people want to take. I never would, but obviously they're making money because they continue to sell the guides in that way, I assume. Yeah. And I get your point about like selling you a manual through a third party. I mean, I don't know, like when I buy like an art book and it's like the art of, say, Zelda over the whole course of the series, that's okay, I think. But like if you're just seeing like a specific guidebook for a specific game that was released at about the same time, almost as like the replacement as of a manual, it does feel like, I don't know, the manual itself is DLC or something.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean,
content.
in the case of Ni no Kuni, it literally was DLC.
Awesome. Well, not awesome at all, but like actually the manual, or was it kind of an art guide, or did they pass it off as an art guide?
It was the manual for the game.
Was it paid DLC?
No, it was
Okay.
it wasn't paid. It paid for it. It was part of the game, but I think they did that with Metal Gear Solid 4 and Ni no Kuni. I remember on the PlayStation 3, like you go to your game and then you press triangle to bring up the menu, and you could like load up the instruction manual. Which is nice, I guess. It's a compromise. Like, you get all the information, but I certainly loved it in like the old school games where like you could have the two things open simultaneously.
Yeah,
because one is physical and the other is on your TV.
Well, I think two things here. I mean, when we say we're nostalgic for manuals, I mean, we're talking about the artwork, even just like, I've bought games and then on the way home, like sitting in the car as my mom drives, open them and like flip through the manual and get really excited. Like they serve a purpose to kind of introduce you to the world, and they had the story in there, and it was really awesome. Like even like the Star Fox manual had like kind of the background story, the opening, and then you open it and you'd see all the different things you could do. A different approach to a manual would be like, here's the game you're going to play, here's the controls, here's almost like a manual for like a refrigerator. Like they don't go into like the history of making the refrigerator, I imagine. They just say, here's the buttons, the end, right? So I think maybe tastes have also, I'm guessing, maybe changed, or like the industry has perceived that they've changed, in that maybe people don't, I'm just blowing shit out of my ass, but maybe people don't want to open a physical manual and read the story there. They want everything to be contained in the game, and therefore that's how they do it now. Or like the idea of what a manual is it has kind of reverted back to like the refrigerator example, where it's like, here's how you play the game, you'll find everything else in the game. Whereas, of course, we remember the Zelda manual with the awesome story and all the awesome art and how exciting that was, right?
Yeah, like I'm looking at a copy of the Super Mario Bros. 3 manual right now, and it's so beautiful. It's like, it's so colorful. It's like the first page, it's like, hello, how have you been? It's been such a long time since we've seen each other. Bowser's up to his old tricks again, so Luigi and I are going on another adventure. You're welcome to come along. It's like this, and then it's like Bowser's there looking angry. He's like, ha ha ha, these are my 7 children that are going to help me take over the mushroom world. And on the next page, these are Bowser's kids. And it's like these fun illustrations. It's like, we just love being mean. It's like everything about this is fun. Like the artwork is fun, the writing is silly. And then this thing is 36 plus pages.
Yep.
I'm scrolling. So it's like 44 pages, including information about the FCC regulations and your 90-day limited warranty.
I actually have it open now. I like page 42. To Mario's players, thanks for selecting Mario 3. It's like a letter from Mario's staff.
Yeah.
But no, absolutely, right? I mean, they obviously had fun with this.
Like there's the drawings are all fun of all the characters, and there's like a nice little description of them, and it's like, I identify with that a lot. Like you said, like you would buy the game, and then in the car ride on the way home, you got this open, and you're getting excited. You're learning about all the world and stuff. Like if you played Metroid, there was no, like, everyone knows the lore of Metroid who's played it. It's like everyone knows what the Metroids are, and it's like the Chozo planet and all this stuff, but like none of that is in the game.
Yeah.
Like
I know.
And they were like doing the world building right from the start of like building up this thing of like Samus. They refer to Samus as a he and a him in the manual.
Yeah.
And
I was going to touch on that.
That was what built up the surprise at the end, right?
Yeah. Well,
like if you didn't have that manual, there'd be no surprise at the end. You'd be like, okay.
Yeah, whatever, right? Well, I think part of it too. I mean, I think since they were making manuals, they had the opportunity to put that extra little, have fun in that extra way. I mean, it was just another avenue to kind of communicate with the player, right? Which, I mean, nowadays might be less taken advantage of. But I think the manual was almost necessitated by kind of the technology and stuff too, right? Like, I mean, if you were working on a Nintendo game and you were the artist, your art is not going to be seen in the game, right? I mean, it's only this pixelated image, so it might show up on the cover or something. But we can all, like, even back then as a kid, like I could look at an image of Bowser or Koopa or whatever, and he looks very different than he does in the game, very different, right? And if I like wanted to draw pictures of Bowser, I would draw the illustrated one, not the in-game one. So but by seeing the illustration and seeing it constantly and seeing it in the manual and relating to it and seeing all the, like you said, like the ha ha ha, these are my 7 children. Like his character is drawn out in the manual, and then when you see him in the game, I just know that's who it is. You know what I mean? So the manual really, I think, it helped the creators say, basically, this is the game we have envisioned. It kind of looks different on this pixelated screen, but this is our characters. This is everything. This is it. This is the product you bought. Now go play the game, right? That's less important now, where I think an artist can just draw basically what shows up in the game, right? And I liked too. You notice, I mean, I'm seeing it in this Mario 3 manual, but it was in a lot of manuals where they'd have like illustrations everywhere, but they'd also have screenshots. Yeah. And I loved that. I don't know what it is. I just loved that. It felt like they're connecting both worlds, like the illustrated, imaginary creative world that they've created with what you see on the screen. Like, I mean, I think you said you have the manual in front of you. If you look at page 18, it's a particularly good page. It's just a listing of the items, and it has a screenshot from the game with a description, but then it also kind of at the bottom shows how Mario changes when you get certain items. And I don't know, I just like that. I've seen like I don't know if it was the Castlevania manual or if it might have been a guide about Castlevania, like the Nintendo's Player's Guide or something, but they had the screenshot of every item and every monster right beside the illustration of it, and then a description. And it was awesome because you could see like some of the graphics in the game. I mean, it looked super cool to me, but still, you couldn't really make out, like, it was a guy with weird kind of pixels on his back, and then you look in the manual and it has that screenshot, and then it also has a picture, like the illustration beside it, and you can see that those dots are like little barnacle-y things or something. And it was like, oh, cool, right? And then you play the game and you're like, that's what's going on. So I mean, that itself, of course, is a I don't know what you'd call it, dead art form, I guess, because games nowadays are generally, they don't have that requirement because they just look good enough, I guess.
I think maybe a large part of the reason they needed the manuals was the screen resolution.
Exactly, yeah.
If you look at the Mario game or whatever, you've got your cloud item, and there's just physically no resolution on the screen to write Jugum's cloud underneath it or something.
Yeah.
If you want to, like, I think the game was brilliant because it relied so much just on an iconic. I hate when I know a word and then I'm pronouncing it for the first time instead of just reading it, and then it just doesn't come out. Iconography.
Iconography. I know the word.
I like iconographic makes sense, but saying iconography sounds weird to me.
Iconography.
Anyway, like the fact that they're relying so much on images and then they can write information about it in the book makes sense to me. Whereas, a lot of modern games, you've got your 1920 by 1080 resolution, and I think everyone is just like, why put this in the manual that someone has to look it up? I can put the information right there next to it.
Yeah. Well, exactly. The manual was needed to augment the experience, and now that necessity has fallen, I guess. But
you know what? I think that while the necessity is gone, I feel like a lot of modern UI is very cluttered. Yes. Like when you get these little tooltips and everything next to everything, I feel like it becomes a chore to even read any of it. Whereas, if you go back to the Nintendo, we were reading it out of fun on the car ride.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all of that was isolated in one place. And, you could ignore it if you wanted to or delve in, right? Yeah. No, I agree. And I think Another thing, they could of course still do this now, but like, yeah, there's definitely a push for like more, I think, documentation in the game and tutorials or like embedded tutorials that work. And I'm not saying all of that's bad in all cases. Certainly, when done well, it's awesome, of course. But like, I have very fond memory of the SimCity manual on Super Nintendo. I don't know if you were ever into that game or any simulations at the time or whatever, but the game came with this enormous manual. It must have been, well, it felt enormous. I don't know, like 100 pages or something, like compared to, say, the Star Fox manual or something. Maybe it was more than that. Anyway, it was this really thick manual, and they went over everything in the game, and they did it in this really cool kind of tongue-in-cheek style. Like, that the character in the game, his name is I'm trying to remember, maybe it's just Dr. Wright or something. But he has green hair.
84 pages.
How many?
84.
84. Well, it was also like a physically large manual, like in dimension. And they just went over, like, if you look through it, if you found it there, like a scan of it or something, they just went over everything in the game and talked through stuff. And they, like, the game had scenarios in it, and then in the manual it would be like, here's this scenario. Like, one of the scenarios was Detroit. You could load up Detroit, and the traffic's or the crime is bad, or the traffic's bad or something. You have to fix that problem in 5 years. So, cool. In the game you get the scenario, but in the manual it would be like, they'd show a picture of Detroit, and Dr. Wright would be crying or something and saying, oh, the traffic's so bad, blah blah blah. I don't really, if you're looking at it, I hope I'm describing it as it actually is and not just some weird rosy memory, but it was I just like that. Like, here's this supplement that's very interesting, that we've put a lot of effort into, that's colorful, fully illustrated, lots of fun. Go play the game, it's cool, but we're not going to clutter the game up with tons of text everywhere. Here's the manual, and that's
yeah. I think that's something that's very frustrating in games, is like when they build a tutorial into it, I think it drastically reduces replayability.
Yeah, a lot of people have a lot to say about those, for sure. Like in-game tutorials that are not done well. I think
what was it? Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance.
Right.
I seem to recall they did an okay job, because it's like the in-game tutorials were a separate thing that you didn't have to do.
Yeah.
And you could like unlock them and then like go and look at them at any time, but it wasn't something that you had to do in order to progress through the game.
Well, do you remember the original Metal Gear Solid?
Yeah, they had the VR operate.
Yeah,
so I guess it's the same way. Yeah,
it was interesting. It was like a competitive training or something. So
yeah,
that was kind of your tutorial, but it was fun, and you could just kind of play it, I guess.
Yeah. I think that worked pretty well. I'm trying to think of any examples off the bat that I've done recently. I don't know. I think like even with Fire Emblems and stuff, it's like when they make those initial levels like just so incredibly dead simple, and they're like, this is how you move your character, this is how you do your attack and stuff. It's like,
Yeah, no, I get you. I mean, it's I guess funish the first time, and then after that it's like
yeah. Did you ever see that sequelitis thing Ego Raptor did on Mega Man X?
No, sequelitis.
There's a YouTube personality, Ego Raptor. He was also on Game Grumps.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, he has a couple of episodes that he started to do called Sequelitis, and he was like describing Castlevania and Mega Man X and Mega Man 8, and like specifically how games can teach the player without turning it into like tons of pop-up text and stuff. And so he uses like the opening level of Mega Man X to like describe how like everything right from when you first turn on the game is built to instruct you how to play the game without just having roll come up on screen and tell you how to play the game.
Right. Cool. I'm sure there's actually various games like that, right? Even like, of course I'm grabbing it for an example, but there's been various like even Super Nintendo era games that kind of have been cited for doing that very well. And I think that era was kind of before they came up with, it was before like tutorials were in vogue, kind of, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm sure there was games with tutorials. It just wasn't like a standard thing, right? Which some people look back on and don't like, but I think when it was done well, it was done very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact time lengths, but I remember someone did a comparison at one point to see, like, with the Zelda games, how long it took to get to the first dungeon from game to game.
Zelda 1 was actually a very good example, I think, that people had been citing. I mentioned recently, Super Nintendo Zelda, Link to the Past. My wife was playing it and I was watching it and thinking, okay, this is really cool how they kind of guide the player, and I'm watching her kind of be guided playing it for the first time.
I wish I could find that exact link on here. I remember, I think it was on Gama Sutra or something, and I remember reading that a long time ago. And it was like, with Zelda 1, it's like you can get to the first dungeon in like within 2 minutes of starting the game or something, of like pressing that power button. And then by the time it got to Skyward Sword, it was like over half an hour by the time you were able to get to the first dungeon.
Right.
And it had just like progressively gotten slower and slower every single game. And then everyone was kind of like thrilled because I think it's 3 years ago when A Link Between Worlds came out, people made a deal out of it because you could get to the first dungeon within 5 minutes. Oh yeah. So, I found a forum post where they're discussing it. And so for Skyward Sword, it was 70 minutes to reach the first dungeon, 20 minutes in Ocarina of Time, 2 minutes in Link to the Past, and also in Link Between Worlds.
Right.
So I don't know. I would be in favor of moving tutorials back to booklets, because I really love reading all that backstory lore of the world as well.
Yeah.
And seeing all that artwork.
It's awesome. I liked, I guess an example of an in-game, I don't know if it was really a manual, but kind of lore anyway, that I did enjoy was the original Final Fantasy Tactics. I don't know if you remember, but there was just a lot to read. There was that almost like encyclopedia you could access and read stuff in. Do you remember that?
In the booklet, right?
Well, not like in the game, not like in a physical booklet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which, I don't know, maybe some people hated or whatever. But
I liked it.
You could pause, and then the option was there. It wasn't in your face. It didn't stop you. So at the very least, that was cool. It wasn't like a matter of seeing cool art or like a cool layout and being, the whole reading it on the way home kind of excitement. But it was cool to kind of have that and get into the lore and stuff, right? Like I read through, I think, all of that at the time. I was so fascinated by it. Yeah.
So I'm trying to find the original manual for that at the moment. Of course, Tactics Advanced manuals are coming up, no problem. But I remember that manual having a lot of stuff in it. Like I remember there was illustrations of all the different jobs, and I think there must have been some information about Evilus and stuff. But yeah, then there was definitely this whole extra layer on top of that in the game that you could optionally go to. And there was like playable tutorials. And I really liked when you went on the job missions in that you had the option of kind of getting the bare basics information of like, was the job a success or whatnot. But then again, you could go into that lore manual in game and like read like a good couple paragraphs about each job.
Yeah.
And I found those fun because like they were all like Easter eggs referencing old Final Fantasy games and stuff. Like they were all like the Tower of Babel and the Red Wings and stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, versus like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, where jobs were literally like as uninteresting as they could make them. And there was no backstory, no effort.
Yeah. It looks like so there was at least 46 pages in the Final Fantasy Tactics manual. I'm looking at a translation of it, but not the actual manual itself.
I'm literally sitting in front of my shelf full of manuals that I haven't reached out to through this conversation. But I also have the Final Fantasy Tactics manual somewhere because I have the game and it's part of the packaging, of course. But It's probably an arm reach away from me, actually.
So I'm looking at the Street Fighter 2 manual right now, and like they totally had a little bit of information about each character, including, you know, the essential, absolute must-know information like each character's blood type.
Yeah, I remember that actually. Final Fantasy VII, I believe, had the same blood type and whatever else. Yeah.
Ryu, date of birth, July 21st, 1964. Height, 5 feet 10 inches. Weight, 150 pounds. Blood type, O.
Holy shit, he's 50 something now.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you probably know, it's quite known, but like in Japan, the blood type is associated with a personality, so
right.
That tells them something.
Yeah. It's depressing looking at this because I had gained a little weight at one point, and at my heaviest, I was heavier than Blanca, who is 4 inches taller than me,
and like made of muscle, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
At least I weighed less than Edmund Honda.
See, this is what manuals provide you, man. It's just, at the very least, it's pure fun,
right? And I weighed less than Zangief.
Nice. What? Oh yeah, that's.
I like how they went the extra mile and they didn't put a weight for Chun-Li, because it's rude to ask a woman her weight.
Is that what it says?
It doesn't say that, but she's the only character in the manual with weight unknown.
Nice. All right. I'll bite my tongue on that one.
And Dalsim is 107 pounds.
Nice. Made of
like sinew and
awesome.
Shrunken skulls.
But the point is, you read the manual, and it you know, we're talking about it, you're thinking about it, it's amusing, right? It's not just like whatever. So yeah, it's contextual information that's very interesting, right?
And each one of these had like a couple of the moves in it too, right? So like, you know, Chun-Li, special move, lightning kick, press any kick button repeatedly.
Yeah.
Lightning kick, years of training has allowed to Chun-Li to develop a series of powerful kicks which strike like lightning. I like how there's like bad translation in the manual.
I know. I actually like it when that happens. Like sometimes, well, I don't know if I like it, but like there's little mistakes, like the Japanese name of something will be kind of ambiguous, like the anglicization. So the manual will choose one spelling and the game will choose another. Yes. You can just tell like the people who are making a manual were in complete disconnect from the people translating the game, right? Yeah. There must have been times they basically dropped a Japanese manual with some screenshots and said, make an English version of this. And they're like, okay. Like I've seen that, like the Nintendo Player's Guide. I think we talked about it previously during the magazine issue, but it's full of those. Like 100% of it is that. It's like someone took the Japanese names and just made their best guess. Like they didn't use the official Nintendo translations. So especially when it's like Zelda and people have weird like Zora and Zola and stuff, like just you have to guess, right? So they just guessed wrong constantly. Yeah. Very amusing.
Yeah, so I mean, this is an example. Like you've got the Hadouken, which I guess translates to surge fist or wave motion fist. But in the manual, where did that manual go? It's just fireball.
Yeah.
By summoning all of his will and channeling it through his hands, Ryu can create an energy wave, or Hadouken.
Nice.
This move drains most of Ryu's energy, and it takes him a few seconds to recover from it.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
That's not even accurate. Maybe in like the lore it did or something. Yeah. Nice. Well, I mean, when Street Fighter 2 came out, if they said, he does a Hadouken, people would be like, what the fuck? Like, now everyone knows what it is. Because it's kind of part of game, like, culture almost, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want me to read the description for Ken's fireball?
Yeah.
By summoning all his will and channeling it through his hands, Ken can create an energy wave, or Hadouken. This move drains most of Ken's energy, and it takes him a few seconds to recover from it.
Wow. And did it shows hands to fists to hands?
And it shows an illustration of Ryu throwing the fireball right next to
uh, it's like, I guess making a manual is that much more opportunity for mockable content too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this. This is like the old school airbrush art that's in here.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, man, I like that a lot. I like that. I mean, you saw different, like some manuals had obvious like original illustration, and some manuals had like no illustration and everything was a screenshot, or like obviously like illustration that was just created for the manual, so the quality is like extremely low and doesn't match any style seen anywhere else, like in the game or in any other promotional materials or anything.
Yeah. Right now I'm looking at the Quest for Glory 2 manual, and I guess the idea in this book was that if you were a hero in this world, you went to the famous adventurers correspondence school. So this
awesome.
is like, so the manual that you get is the famous adventurers correspondence school handbook.
Nice. I see. So you're a hero. Here's your schooling.
Yeah.
And then you can go play the game. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Now that you've been on your own in the real world of high-powered adventuring, you have probably discovered that there is more to this hero business than was covered in your famous adventurers correspondence school handbook. After all, why should we tell you everything at once when we can make big bucks selling you additional manuals? In your everyday quest for glory, you are bound to encounter situations of such magnitude and unbelievable stress that you probably say to yourself, maybe I should have taken the famous accountant's correspondence course instead.
Nice. Very nice. I love that stuff.
And so it's like, it goes on, and it's like you can buy the strategy guide from them for
I was gonna say that's what they're alluding to, and at least they're self-conscious about this and they don't beat around the bush. They might as well just say like, give this sheet to your parents and then read the next page.
But yeah, it like totally goes on. It's like, what is an adventurer? And it's like, when an adventurer becomes bored with bravery, fatigued with fighting, or ho-hummed about heroics. It's like, I love the writing in this.
Yeah. And the same with the manuals, the magazines and stuff too. I mean, it's just such an opportunity to have fun with it, because I mean, you have my full attention, right? You might as well write prose that's interesting. Whereas I think people tend to often kind of click through stuff on a on-screen tutorial or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to run in a second.
Okay.
I guess one last thing to touch on is just, it's not just manuals, but like all of the packaging was awesome.
Yeah.
Like the physical box often had awesome cover art. The physical cartridge or whatever had awesome cover art. Perhaps the same, perhaps different. Like it was packaged with maps. Even like, I mean, you get the manual, and at the time I think it probably was annoying, but you'd have all the like, you'd kind of shake it and it would, all the like, please subscribe to this, please subscribe to that, please register your product, please whatever, those little cards would fall out. But it's kind of nostalgic for me now to think of those, because I've never seen any of those in like a million years. But like, you'd have like the ad trying to get you to join Nintendo Power or join the Nintendo Club or whatever. Like, those are really cool, I thought.
Yeah, back to Final Fantasies and Dragon Warriors, like they had like the whole bestiary and item inventory list,
awesome,
and world maps and stuff included. Like that
Secret of Mana, awesome manual.
Yeah. Your favorite game, Lunar Silver?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that's I think that's the biggest disappointment about modern games. Like, I think I mentioned that when Breath of the Wild came out, like someone had taken a photo and put that up on Reddit. It was like, they just opened the case and it's this like DVD size case with a tiny little SD card in it and nothing else.
Yeah, agreed. That's a bummer. Well, cheers to manuals.